Everyone, I'm Jack. Welcome to the official IslesDen YouTube channel. We're going to be doing a lot more Islanders post-game show and podcasting content for this upcoming season. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. You can also find my weekly podcast on Twitter at Isles House, co-hosted by myself at IslesDen, Ethan at EthanGSN, and Rocco at Pizza Sports Guy, all on Twitter. Thank you for joining me. Welcome in, back at it. Islanders fall 4-3 to the Philadelphia Flyers in what was a pretty entertaining game. 9:30 a.m. start for me out here, so was just hoping for a fun one this afternoon. Well, this morning for myself, and we got it. Um, 4-3 final. Today we're going to be having a special guest that's going to be Stefen Rosner from the Hockey News, who covers the Islanders. If you don't follow him, his socials are below in the YouTube description. And we're going to just do a game recap, discuss who stood out, what maybe was a struggling part today. I just realized that I'm actually not live on Twitter. I need to fix that real quick. Let's see. Okay. So now Twitter should be live as well. Just a little technical difficulties on that front. So yeah, today we're going to be bringing in Stefen Rosner from the Hockey News. He covers the Islanders. If you don't follow him, give him a follow at Stefen Rosner. And yeah, just going through today's game, Islanders fall 4-3. It was quite an entertaining one. As I just stated, Islanders come out first period, get on the board. They actually jump out to a 2-0 lead in this one. They have a 3-2 lead, but ultimately fall. The first goal, Islanders find themselves on the PK early. Simon Holmstrom breaks up a potential chance on the man advantage, takes it the other way with Pajot. Islanders finish on an incredible shot. So it was 1-0 in the first period. And then later in the second period, our new friend, Marshall Warren, made his NHL debut today. He had a beautiful seam pass to Anthony Duclair, found him 2-0 Islanders ahead. And then it got a little bit dicey from there. Christian Dvorak tallied one, caught Sorokin a little bit out of position. That play started with a Siplikov turnover. It was an ugly breakdown, and it's kind of what you expect to see defensively from this group. And later in the third, about 2 minutes in, the Flyers tied it up at 2, courtesy of Trevor Zegras. And we thought Marshall Warren, the Long Island kid, had his first NHL goal. Turned out to be a wicked deflection in front by Maxim Siplikov, who found his first goal of the season. And then 3-2 Islanders just couldn't quite stay out of the box here. Mayfield, I believe, took the penalty and scramble in front. Just absolute chaos. Bobby Brink is sitting there on Sorokin, and eventually the Flyers somehow find the puck under all the bodies, tie the game up at 3. And from there, it was just kind of trading chances. Samuel Ersson came up huge in this game. A couple of big stops, one on Drouin, one that Drouin set up in overtime. I've been told that that one could have probably been an offsides if it converted. So makes it a little bit easier that they ultimately fell short. But this game, 3-on-3 was a lot of fun. You got your first look at Schaefer, kind of with the extra space on the ice. He was pretty good in that situation. And Pajot made a good play. I want to take note of Cam York in the neutral zone, got the possession back, and possession is everything in 3-on-3. I thought the Islanders did a good job getting in some line changes. They limited Philly's chances. And yeah, ultimately found ourselves in a shootout. And this game ending in a shootout just kind of sucked. The Islanders obviously lost, but Simon Holmstrom at least gave us something to hang our hats on in the future with these shootouts, because we've seen it before. But my goodness, he made Ersson look silly on that deke. And Michkov beat Sorokin. And I can't remember who scored the other one for Philly in the shootout. But I think it was Zegras. Yeah, Zegras went in really slow, and then Michkov finished it off. But man, immediate takeaways, I think we first have to start with Marshall Warren. He he was really impressive. Came out confident, skated well, set up opportunities. He broke up a couple plays in the D zone, and I didn't think it was the easiest assignment they put on this kid. I probably, if I was coaching the team, not ripping the guy or anything. The Islanders are have points in their last 5 games after starting 0-3. They're definitely being coached well. The forward lines are clicking, but there was a neutral zone draw in the first period where, his partner today was D'Angelo, who we definitely have some questions about defensively. And he's in the neutral zone with the fourth line. That's Cizikas, McLean, Stiplikov, and there's chances going on in front of him. He did a really good job cleaning up the crease in the first period. There was a good look on Sorokin, and yeah, Marshall obviously that pass to Duclair. I mean, that's some good stuff, and this kid kinda came out of nowhere in my view. Like, he wasn't really on my radar. I was expecting Isaiah George to be the one to step in early on if there was an injury. So you gotta be impressed, and, it was his first NHL game. There were mistakes, but I do give Sorokin credit for this. He made a mistake that led to a Bobby Brink breakaway in the second period. Sorokin stood tall, and there was another play. I can't quite remember the second mistake, but Sorokin came up big as well. So, you know, the veterans sticking up. And yeah, I was really impressed with Marshall Warren. Wish we could have gotten a win. I mean, NHL debut, putting in 2 points. You just hope for better. You hope for a better result. So, unfortunately, um, they fell 4-3. And just quickly wanted to touch on my favorite part of this game. This was a different feel. The Flyers and Islanders, not known for maybe the biggest rivalries, but these teams have been facing off since the 1970s, and we were reminded of that today. Early on in the game, I mean, Garneth Hathaway, known annoying, pesky guy to play against, hitting everything he sees, and eventually Scott Mayfield said, "Enough's enough." He dropped the gloves. He ends up with blood on his head. It was a scene. And you I assumed that it would stop from there, but no, it continued into the third period. I mean, this game's tied 2-2, and suddenly the fourth line's out there for the Islanders: McLean, Cizikas, Sip. Um, with Schaefer and Mayfield, I'm listening to the Flyers telecast. They want everybody in the box because Schaefer's out there. It was something that we don't see all the time, but it was enjoyable. And another thing I enjoyed was I was getting some messages about a tweet I had from months ago saying that, like, I wish the Islanders kind of had an enforcer or somebody that's not as maybe good or reliable as Scott Mayfield is, to step into that situation and be someone to handle it, because they need Mayfield on the ice. I know today wasn't his best game, but yeah, they need more guys that are going to come and answer that bell that aren't, you know, 15-minute per night defensemen, especially playing with Schaefer. But Schaefer, ironically, is the one that found himself in the penalty box there. And yeah, last 2 games, the Red Wings and Flyers, they haven't been shy about hitting Schaefer. I'm probably getting sick of hearing how great this 18-year-old is when you have a bunch of guys that simply aren't showing the dynamic skill set he brings or getting the attention he is. So they want to welcome this kid to the league, and the Islanders have to deal with that, and it's going to be interesting. And, that's what makes this sport so unique. You watch like the NBA, obviously these leagues are so different, but something I appreciated in this one was, I want to say it was late in the third period. The Islanders go to dump in a puck. Schaefer gets Schaefer ends up dumping it in, but Travis Konechny, he finishes his check, and um, Horvat gets in there. He throws a check at Konechny, and these two are cousins. So I thought it was really funny. So you see this moment where Horvat is like staring at Konechny after the hit, and eventually Konechny just blows Horvat in the face. Like, he just gives him the glove right up there, and Horvat kind of looks shocked. But yeah, these guys are extremely competitive. And yeah, that was something different and something that I enjoyed personally. Just the rivalry feel. It was a good one. And credit to the Flyers. I mean, they're an interesting team right now. I would say that their rebuild is on the right track. obviously winning today, but you take a look at their lineup, they just have a lot of good complementary wingers, in my opinion. Like you got that Bobby Brink, Zegras, Forrester. Those are all young guys that are on the rise, I would say. Obviously, they have Michkov. These guys are young, they're talented, but they still are missing depth and a big piece down the middle. So I'm interested to see where they go in that direction, but they're playing better defensively. Erson, who's been a problem for them, he really rose up today. So that was big. Um, and yeah, this was a good one. I thought forward line wise, I thought Barzell looked really good today, just setting up a ton of chances on the Flyers broadcast. They did not like it when he was controlling the puck down the middle. It was not a fun watch for them. I thought the fourth line was okay today. There were a couple plays early where they have a chance to break out the puck. McLean can't get it out. There was a couple plays offensively that were just kind of dying on his stick. It was a little bit frustrating, but as the game went on, they actually got better and they were on the ice for the third goal of the game, which was for Siplikov. Boy, he needed that one. It's like this guy seemed like he couldn't buy a break throughout the first couple games, and his turnover led to the first Flyers goal. In the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, all right, this guy's going to get benched the entire rest of the way. Um, Got to send in this link. Give me 1 second. Getting Stefen Rosner on the show right now, so just gonna send him in. He's gonna be in the car driving back from the game in Philly today to the island. Look forward to having him on. But yeah, Siplikov, I thought this was a major step in the right direction for him. Simon Holmstrom continues his strong play since being back in the line. Now, I don't think he was never taken out of the lineup, but boy, it felt like he was in the doghouse. He has been moved up from the doghouse. I mean, that shorthanded goal was awesome. Top shelf, breaking up the play defensively. Major good sign for him. I thought Lee was strong again today. I thought Pajot was awesome. Just an unfortunate loss. And, you got Shabanov who's injured and kind of sucks because I wanted to see Shabanov out there with the open ice, with the 3-on-3 and especially in the shootout. So missing him ended up mattering maybe a little bit more today than I think people realize. Another thing, Heineman, Drouin, Horvat. I thought they weren't at their best today, but they had looks, they had opportunities. Heineman couldn't find one of those. Like you almost think that Drouin shot in the third period. If that's Heineman, I don't know. I think that might be a goal. So unfortunate break there, but I think Sam Ersson is a big reason the Flyers picked up these 2 points today. Another key takeaway, Matthew Schaefer once again, got to cover him a little bit. There was just like one play in the first period, and I tweeted this the other night. There's not one game that goes by with Schaefer where you don't thank God for those lottery balls, for those ping pong balls during the draft lottery. He There was a play where they're trying to get out of the zone. He finally gets the exit. He makes a good play defensively, and immediately we're on a 4-on-2 rush. Duclair streaking down the wing. He finds him, but Duclair, I don't think he could handle the pass. So it didn't turn into anything, but it was just a play that you wouldn't see in previous years. I'll tell you that. Um, so another strong looking game for Schaefer, just like every game. You would have wanted Sorokin to come away with these 2 points. I think he played well. He made a couple of big saves, but you know, I didn't think it was like it. I will say a part of me gets a little bit frustrated where you have a guy like Erson who made big time save after big time save as the game got later. And, Sorokin didn't really have a chance to make those types of saves late, which might prove to be more rare as the season goes on with this defensive unit. But yeah, Erson made the saves when he had to, and he made the saves when he had to in the shootout as well. We got to be rational here. Shootouts are probably one of the hardest situations for a goalie to come in. I mean, you're one-on-one, you could see everything, but you're going up against guys like Michkov and Zegras. These are players that have extreme amounts of talent that were highly touted coming out of juniors, coming out of God knows. So can't put too much on him there. Would have liked to have scored more, but one thing when the shootout lineup was being assembled and everything, I did think about last season during that Columbus game when Duclair fumbled the puck on his way in for the attempt and it went bouncing off his stick, and it was during that Columbus game with the goaltender interference, and yeah, the Islanders ended up losing and it was an embarrassing moment for Duclair. So a part of me is just thankful that he was able to get the shot off there. Just looking for some more notes here to discuss before Stefan hops on. Yeah, Mayfield with a bad penalty. I didn't think he was at his best today, and it honestly seemed like the Flyers, whatever they have against him, I would expect it to be Siplikov given that hit last season he made, but no, they were all over Scotty today, and he didn't play so great. Let's look here. Early in the first period, yeah, Hathaway came out just trying to nail Schaefer, and we can get Stefen onto the program. I'd like to welcome Stefen Rosner from the Hockey News. How we doing, Steph?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good, good. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I just got in the car and clicked go on my GPS, and I thought it was going to be a 2-hour drive, and it's actually going to be a 3-hour drive. So it is what it is. We move forward 1 minute at a time.
4:30 coming from Philly to New York. Yeah, that's to be expected. This could be one of the worst times to probably make that trip. Just if it was a night game, you'd be a little bit.
Oh, it allows me to have more time with you. So we'll look at the positives here.
Lucky you for now. But just wanted to get a pulse. So I didn't watch the post game actually. I was preparing here some notes for the post game. What was the vibe? Like, did the Islanders feel like they let one slip away here, or was it more like, it's a shootout? Shootouts are dumb, whatever.
So they were pretty pissed. We didn't talk to everybody, but you could just tell by the emotions of guys leaving the room and everything like that. They're pissed, and you could say they should be. They have a 2-0 lead against a Flyers team that's been playing. They probably should have won the other day when they played in Ottawa, but Urson hadn't played in a while, and he didn't look great early. I mean, he didn't really get much help, but he didn't look great early. 2 goals and 5 shots, and then he just, he turned into Martin Brodeur in overtime there. But yeah, the Islanders were pissed with the way it ended. Obviously, Marshall Warren had himself a fantastic debut, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But yeah, they wanted to get the win here. A 5-game point streak's great. Patrick Waugh liked a lot of the things he saw from his team, but there was a miscommunication on one goal. There was a breakdown on another. And then they had, again, the other thing, too, is they had chances to win this game, obviously, in regulation. But Schaefer had 2 strong chances in the overtime. Waugh thought the game was over when Druin passed to Horvat. So, yeah, I think the Islanders know they slipped. They allowed a point here that they probably should definitely have, but I guess it's better than not getting any. And you move forward with a 5-game point streak, and you go and get ready to face Boston.
Yeah, I understand. I understand being frustrated after this one. I mean, as you said, you have two different leads in the third period. I wasn't, it would have probably bothered me more if it was like a 5-on-6 situation. But that power play goal to tie the game at 3. I didn't bring this up yet. Did anyone ask Waugh if he contemplated challenging that call?
So we didn't ask Waugh that. I looked at the replay, and I am a goalie, so I'm not saying I'm biased, but I have thoughts. It's so hard with the challenge because it's 3-3, and I think, maybe we'll ask Waugh if they practice tomorrow. But you challenge that and you lose that. And again, they called it a goal on the ice. You lose that. Now the game's 3-3. Now you have to go back on the kill. So that puts a lot of, that takes a lot of the decision making into more of that than the call itself. I thought his pad was interfered with there. You could see how he was pushed in. They gave the goal to Cates, I believe, but Cates said he never touched it. So I think, they gave the goal to Zegras.
Zegras, yeah.
But I think it's going to end up becoming Cates. But yeah, I don't think it was I thought it was goal interference, but I could see why the Islanders took a hard look at that and said, you know what, we're not going to challenge that because, God forbid, they lose that challenge. And with how goaltending interference goes, plus them calling it a goal in the rink, that probably would have been a tough one to overturn, and then you find yourself right back on the PK.
Yeah, I honestly, I really thought at first it was definitely going to be challenged and overturned just because Brink was literally sitting on him, and I feel like they benefit the goalie. But I totally understand not taking that risk. I mean, this team, while the PK is improving, it's definitely not something you want with the game on the line. So I understand not taking that risk. And plus, like I thought they definitely were going to have chances to score, which they did. They had their chances. Um, could be labeled as a frustrating one, but I thought Warren was really good today. Obviously, he chipped in with 2 points. Really smart playmaking. I mean, the shot where that Siplikov redirects, I mean, it's just a high IQ kind of play from the blue line, like a veteran
Right.
play. He's not throwing some meatball on the goalie. He's not even putting it in the air. He's giving his guy a chance in front of the net. And Siplikov made no mistake, which I thought was huge. I didn't think it was perfect for Warren, but that's to be expected. I mean, I thought there were some mistakes that Sorokin actually covered up really well. There was a breakaway for Brink, I think, in the second. I couldn't remember the play in the third, but what were your takeaways on Warren and Waz?
Yeah, so I think early on, a little shaky. There was that one shift. I think he had a couple of turnovers. He ended the game with 2 giveaways by the stat sheet, which is never reliable. But I thought he settled in really quickly. I mean, you talk to this kid, and he's not like so mature as in Schaefer, but he's so confident in his ability. He knows. I was talking to D'Angelo about this. D'Angelo said, "You love to see a kid come up that knows he belongs." And that means something. When a guy comes up and he's the teammates can tell he's nervous. Not saying you don't trust him, but if that translates to his on ice play, it's probably going to be a tough debut. The fact that Warren hit the ice, it was emotional for him. He said, obviously being a diehard Islander fan and hitting the ice and getting to play an NHL game for the team you grew up idolizing, that's huge. And so for D'Angelo to say that he wasn't nervous at all and he's really calm and confident was great. And you saw it in his game. And I think as the game went on, he became ultra confident. You saw him, instead of just chip pucks out, he was skating to lead rush plays, skating out of the zone, which is obviously huge in a Patrick Waugh system. And Waugh loved his game. Thought he played really well. He goes, he got 2 apples. But I thought he defended really well. His stick placement is really strong. What I noticed the most of that is his first read, his mind catching up with his skates to make the plays that he saw immediately, whether it was a poke check, whether it was a quick out. Now, that's what you love to see from a young guy like that, and I think he earned himself another shot to play in Boston. Obviously, we have to see what goes on with Romanov. He was eligible to come off IR yesterday, hasn't been practicing, so we'll go from there. But I think he definitely earned another game if it's between him or Boquist.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. One thing, I actually have a question for you. That goal that he was on the ice for, it was the Zegras one. He might have been on the ice again for another one, but that Zegras goal where D'Angelo comes over to help him when he doesn't, I don't think he needed help. Like, it's kind of a tough play because I know D'Angelo's at fault for that goal, but it just kind of sucks because he's just trying to help the kid out in a situation, and it was not good judgment, and it left Zegras just point blank.
Right, yeah. It was a mistake by D'Angelo. And now, listen, you want to be there it is all communication. Yes, it's a coverage play, but also maybe if D'Angelo is able to talk to someone else, or even just communicate with Warren and be like, yo, you good? Well, I don't know how fast you could ask that, but yeah, again, it comes from D'Angelo wants to support, and I think on that play, you kind of got to let Warren sink or swim there. Obviously, it seemed like Warren was okay there, and D'Angelo made the wrong read. It's hard to, you want to knock D'Angelo because he's leaving his position, but you understood why he did it. Obviously, though, he's going to look back and watch the film and realize, oh, you know what, that's the wrong play. So, yeah, it's unfortunate for the Islanders. D'Angelo obviously meant well, but it's a goal that, it changes this game completely.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. Another question I got for you. So the shootout, the game, I thought Erson came up huge with the game on the line. I thought Sorokin was pretty good today. I don't think it was anything special. How much of that game do you put on Ilya, or do you put on the defense in front of him, or just it's hockey, you lose games sometimes? I'm
never going to blame a goalie for a shootout. Am I biased in that? 100%, but also the advantage is never the goalie. And I think what the NHL should do with shootouts is make them breakaways. What I mean by that is have someone back checking or have it be timed where there's a little more pressure. Like the first shooter that came in on Sorokin, that he stopped, I believe. Very, very, to me, that's not hockey at that point. But I'll digress there. Yeah, this game, I don't put on Sorokin at all. What I loved about Sorokin's game today is it wasn't flashy. And I think people love to get caught up in the flashy saves. They're fun to watch, right? Usually, unless it's a backdoor play, usually when a goalie has to be flashy, that means they're covering up for a lack of positioning. They didn't get square to a shot, so they have to reach out with their glove to make a split glove save. Well, if they're square to the puck, the shot's hitting them in the chest. It doesn't have to be in the glove. Or if they're diving, with their pad, or they have to stretch really from a far out shot, they got to stretch really far. Like, that's all positioning and all of them bailing themselves out. Today in Sorokin, he bailed his team out a ton. A lot of those high leverage, high danger slot shots. I've never, in the time that Sorokin's been on the island, seen Sorokin as high as he was in his crease. He's been aggressive at times, sure. He exploded to well above the crease. I would say he got close to the hash marks on some of them. And it makes a huge difference because those guys are looking down at their stick for a last second, look up to shoot, and Sorokin's taking away all of it. Now, I didn't love his rebound control in this game. I don't blame him for, there were no goals that came off the rebound control. But the thing is, when you're out that far and you're being that aggressive, it's all reaction. It's very, very hard to then control your rebounds from that point just because you're so far out, you just gotta react. And that's when you need your teammates to back you up. The goal that trickles in on the power play, shorthanded, that's on his D. The coverage for Diony D'Angelo, that's on the D.
Yep.
And again, I thought in overtime he made that stretched out sprawling save was unreal.
That was a good save.
I look at Sorokin's game tonight. Didn't love the rebound control, but if you're going to get that aggressiveness, because when Sorokin allows those goals to go through him, he's in the right spots. I just think he needs to be more aggressive to cut out more of the angle. So I'm not going to say I take this game over the other games Sorokin plays, but he bailed it. He got the honors of point in this one. I know they had the 2-0 lead early, but he was very impressive in his positioning tonight.
I've never had a harder time evaluating any goalie in any season of Islanders hockey because it's just he makes some excellent saves as the game goes on, and then there's one where you think it's possible he can make the save, and it's like I don't even know. I really don't even know where to go. But I agree with you on the.
This was the first game I think the entire year he didn't allow a soft goal.
Yeah, and I thought I agree with your take on the shootout. I wish they would just play 4-on-4, and I actually want to piggyback off that one. So. I hated the shootout ending this particular game because this was a hockey game. There were fights, there were hits, it was physical, it was chippy, and something that I pointed out, I'm not sure if you noticed this from the press box, but there was a play late in the third period where Schaefer goes to dump the puck in, Travis Konechny finishes his check on Schaefer.
Yep.
And Horvat is right there, and Horvat goes in, he hits Konechny, and they're cousins, so I thought it was really funny. You see them kind of staring at each other for a second, and then Konechny just gives Horvat a little bit of a right hook, and Horvat just looks shocked. It was just it was a funny one, but
I saw that. It's funny. It's family. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and
but they were great. I think we should mention that. By the way, you bring that up. This is the most physical Schaefer's been. He played into it, and that's what you don't want to see a guy like that so talented shy away from that part. Is Schaefer the biggest dude? No, but that Grebrenkin, or you ever pronounce his name, when he got separated from the refs and then ended up trying to fight other people, if you watch the replay of how that all unfolded, Schaefer goes at, while the ref's kind of holding Grebrenkin, Schaefer skates that area ready to go.
He does.
I know he said to the ref, what do I do? But, he didn't shy away from the physicality of the Flyers at all. And when it got, feisty, Schaefer was all about that. And that's what you love to see because a guy like that's talented. You could see him shying away. Let my team handle this. He proved a lot tonight, I think, with that because teams, we saw it against Detroit, Appleton late. We saw Tom Wilson give him an elbow. Teams are going to try to not hurt him in the sense of injure him and be out, but they want to make him worry every time he's on the rink that something's going to happen because when you have a player that you make worried and everything, maybe they're getting rid of the puck quicker. And that's for Schaefer. The goal of the opponent is to get him the puck off his stick as quick as possible. And he took every hit. He did it against Detroit. He bounced back up. He didn't leave the game. He played hard. So I think you love that aspect of what you saw from Schaefer today.
And another question I have on this topic. So a couple months ago, there's one of those, generic hockey tweets, what's one take that you have that, nobody probably agrees with? And mine was, with the Islanders being a little bit of a younger team now, with Schaefer, with Gabinov, with even Warren out there today, they got George in the system, they got Richie on the way up. Don't you think that there should be a different level of a physical presence on the team to kind of, take these matters into his hands that isn't someone like Scott Mayfield, who's literally the first overall draft pick's partner? Do you think that this team lacks like some level of big enforcer to kind of come in, like a Ross Johnston, like a Matt Martin back in the day, to clean up the mess?
So this is a two-parter. I'm not trying to like ignore your answer. Do the Islanders probably want a physical presence like that? Sure. However, this is the most talented forward group that the Islanders have had in quite some time. And you put a guy like a Rempe or a Reeves into this lineup, guess what? You can no longer run 4 lines. It's impossible.
Right.
So the way if this was a Lou Lamoriello, Barry Trotz system, 1,000% there's a role for that. However, you are sinking your ability to play the 4-line transition game by doing that. So I would say no. I'm not. If you're an Islander fan, I get why you'd be worried. But whether it's, you look at it, they're all standing up for him. So it's not a situation where if nobody was standing up for him at all, like we've seen in the past with this Islander team, there's been times where like Pelech gets crushed or elbowed and no one does anything or things like that, right? But for this team, the way they play, having a guy like a Rempe or a Reeves would be detrimental to the way they want to play, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes total sense to me. I was thinking like maybe you could have someone that has this presence and insert him only for certain games. Like maybe the next time they would play this Flyers team. Because I mean, man, Hathaway came out hunting today. Nothing dirty, but man, he was getting after it. And the Red Wings the other night, these teams are not shy about giving this kid like a little extra check, which, it's like I would rather have that in the sport, honestly. Might not be a hot take, but I just love how competitive this league is, and it makes every game like this just so fun to watch.
They're doing exactly what they should be doing, and the Islanders have to overcome it. Schaefer has to overcome it, and to be honest, the more Schaefer continues to overcome it, I know the Islanders didn't win tonight, but once Schaefer shows it's getting to him, that's it. I mean, you're going to get it it's like bullies, right? If someone every time gets bullied cries, the bully's going to keep bullying because getting the response he wants. The Schaefer knocking it off, it's going to make the other team more pissed off, and they're going to end up taking penalties against Schaefer, which we've already seen, right? So I'm not worried about Schaefer with the physicality. I'm worried about Schaefer just, he's never played a long season, like an NHL season before. He only played 17 games last year. Like, this is a big step for him in the way that the schedule is. So I'm be more concerned, if you're an Islander fan, about how his body just holds up. But in terms of game to game, taking slashes, things like that, he'll be just fine.
Yeah, then we're gonna switch a little gears here. I'm actually gonna ask you. It's almost like a little quiz. So during the show, every game, I always bring out the analytical data of the game, and like I guess with whoever is appearing on here, who were the worst and best lines today at 5-on-5, and like I try to rank them. And you and I both are more eye test guys. I already saw a game score that had Pajot really lowly rated. Which
I disagree with that completely.
I couldn't disagree more. I actually thought he was really good today. I think he's had a really strong start to the season. But it is fun to do a little bit. So I want you to take a guess at 5-on-5. Who were the Islanders' best, second best, and worst defensive pair?
Oh, so we're going forwards or we're going defense pairings?
We'll start with defense pairings.
Start defense. So, okay. I'm going to say analytically at 5-on-5, I'm probably going with Pelech Pulak. The advanced stats probably saying they were the worst.
They were the second. They were the second at 5-on-5.
All right, so they were middle. So I'm going to say analytically that I think it's a trick. I think it's all a trick. It is. I'm going to say Schaefer, Mayfield. I'm going to say Schaefer and Mayfield were the worst, and Warren and DeAngelo were the best.
Oh, man. You're 0 for 3. And it's kind
of... Okay, well, this is stupid. No, I'm kidding.
It's
yeah, okay. I get why I would get why the analytics would say that Schaefer and Mayfield were the best, probably because of possession time and things like that.
Yep.
But again, analytics. It's a good fun quiz. Don't like to get embarrassed and go 0 for 3 after, being paid to watch this. But to be honest, I really thought Pelech and Pulak had struggled, probably more so than DeAngelo and Warren did. But again, that goal that happens, that's at 5-on-5. So I could see why the analytics would go that way.
Yeah, the Warren did get bailed out a couple of times by Sorokin.
That's true.
But yeah, I didn't. it's crazy because it says the on-ice shots for and against were 2-6. So Warren, I think, capitalized on both of the shots, giving him the 2 assists that were while he was on the ice, which is honestly pretty crazy. But yeah, I don't think that they were, the way they rank X goals and the way it's graded, I have problems with that.
It's such a
So
broken system. Yeah. All
yeah,
right, let's move over to the forward group here because you just said that Pajot had a low goal game score, so that probably tells me his line probably did. So I think the best line was the Horvat line. The second best line I think was the fourth line. I put Pajot's line.
I lost you for a second. So Stefen guessed that the fourth line had a good game today. Hopefully we can get him back in just a moment here. So the fourth line of Siplikov, Cizikas, and McLean, they actually graded out as the highest in expected goals. They actually gave up only one shot while on the ice, and I think it was that goal that Zegras had right at the net front. Oh, you're back.
All right, you got me?
Yeah,
okay, so I think the best line was the Horvat line. I think the second best line was the fourth line. Analytically guessing, because you already said Pajot had a low game score. I put Pajot's line third, and I put Barzal's lines fourth.
Okay, so you were on point with McLean, Cizikas, and Siplikov. They had a very good game at 5-on-5. They were the best line today. The second best line was actually that Barzal, Palmieri, Duclair line. There were a couple of chances that are going to get graded very high, right? Like the one that Duclair, the one that fumbles over his stick, his shot right at the net front. Like these are they had their chances. Palmieri had one on the rush, but yeah, I'm not so sure with Lee, Pajot, and Holmstrom why they were graded low, but Drouin, Heineman, and Horvat were graded extremely low today, and I think it's a little deceiving because there were a couple of shifts where it was actually Horvat, Drouin with Siplikov. I don't know. Did you notice that at one point in the third period?
Yeah, I noticed that a little bit in the third, but yeah, I also noticed I didn't think it was Horvat's best game. I think that line still was good, but there was a lot of, he had that turnover that Sorokin. That's another one of those saves I'm talking about where Sorokin, so high in his crease, bails out the slot shot. So analytics are garbage. What can I tell you?
Yeah, but also, Horvat had that great chance at 3-on-3. So sometimes, we think of these great chances, but they're not graded in the money puck data. But yeah, I thought Barzal I thought was really good today. I think he's had a really strong start to the season. And it's kind of funny. It almost flies under the radar now. And he's always been one of the most popular players to always watch. But with all of the guys around him, I think he's had a tremendous start to the year. Are you seeing the same?
Yeah, I like his game. I didn't love it today. I thought there were a lot of he kind of reverted today. And this is a large part to him being the first in the zone and maybe his line mate's not getting open. But I thought a lot of today was the old Barzal where he peels on the half wall and hits the high guy. A lot more than we've seen. And again, you come into this game, the Philadelphia Flyers, I think, had the third best defensive stats in the league. So maybe they did a really good job of protecting the slot. So I think Barzal kind of got forced to the outside, as opposed to all these other games we've seen him play where he's gone up the middle and stayed up the middle and dropped passes or things like that. So I didn't think his game was great today, but I think you have to. Same with Horvat. The Noah Cates line shut down the Barzal line, in my opinion, watching. And I thought Horvat's line didn't have a lot either. So I want to give a lot of credit to the Flyers. I think they played a really solid defensive game.
Yeah, I actually gave them credit too at the top. I said their team is really kind of molded in an interesting way. So obviously they've been rebuilding for a while, but I think they have a lot of really, really good complementary pieces and one of the more underrated winger groups in the league. I mean, you have Zegras, Michkov, Brink, Forrester, and you even got Konechny, who's a really good player. These guys, they're kind of they also have Owen Tippett, another guy who can score 20 goals. They just kind of are missing, in my opinion, it looks like they're just really missing that push from down the middle. That's got to be next on the agenda for the Flyers because they actually do. They're starting to put together a pretty good team.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into anything that happened with Hockey Canada and Carter Hart, but when you had a team that had what they believed to be a franchise goaltender, and you put you started to build a team around having a franchise goaltender, and then you don't. And that's the hardest position, like a quarterback in football, to get. And whether you want to believe that you need an elite goaltender or not to win a cup, obviously there's arguments on both sides. But it set this franchise back with Carter Hart not being the focal point anymore. And finally now, with the way Dan Vladar has played and the way Urson's played, they finally have goaltending. When you get good goaltending, that's a huge confidence boost for a team. And you mentioned down the middle, I think Couture's had a great start to the year. But yeah, they need that. They also need Michkov to be Michkov. He came into camp out of shape, they said. He hasn't looked great. He's been demoted to the bottom 6. That guy has to be a legitimate elite player for this team if they're going to win consistently. And I think he had a solid third period today. Trevor Zegras, great trade for them. I think he's going to fit this team well. Drysdale was really good. Like, they have some really great pieces that you mentioned. Goaltending probably the biggest. But they need Michkov to be the star that he is every night. They need Michkov to be like a Demidov, where every night you're talking about him. Or like a Schaefer, where every night he's doing some amazing stuff. And I don't think he's done it enough this year. Maybe today's the day that kind of lets him feel good. That pass he made. Was that a pass he made to? No, he was the benefactor of that pass, right? I don't know. Zegras found him. Was that the goal?
It was Dvorak who scored. Yeah, he did make.
Oh, Dvorak, right? But Michkov, I think, got the secondary assist on that. So again, he needs to be that guy every single time. Of course, Zegras helps, but yeah, they're an interesting team. Tocchet's a good coach. We'll see if we get the most out of this group.
I was a little bit worried after that goal because it started off the fourth line of the Islanders was in the Flyers zone for a little bit. Siplikov made a pass to the point that got intercepted, and Dvorak ended up finishing that play on the other end of the ice. And I was sitting there, Stefen, thinking, oh boy, Siplikov is going to be riding the bench and he's going to be a healthy scratch. But just a period later, he put the Islanders up 3-2. Now, I want to know, did you have those same thoughts going through your mind, or do you think that play, although he had a turnover, just wasn't really on him?
I look at Siplikov, and it's not not that he doesn't know how to play a bottom 6 role. I just think he's got what is his game, right? We look at what he did in the KHL, and we said, okay, this guy's coming over as a goal scorer. That's what he was known for. That's what his stat sheet said. He is a power forward goal scorer. And he comes here, he does score in his first NHL game, that Utah game. Should have been the game winner. The Islanders blew 5 leads that game, it felt like. But okay, and then the assists came. You said, okay, at some point they're going to even out. And we're going to see the goals. And we never really saw the goals. And then this year, you wanted to see him or Holmstrom really grab that second line winger, or whatever you want to call it, alongside Barzal. Neither grabbed it. And you said, okay, he's going to start on the fourth line, then he gets scratched, all that stuff. So what is he? Is he a fourth line grinder who's going to score 10, 12, 15 goals? Is he a playmaker? I don't think we know yet what Siplikov's going to be. So yeah, I wouldn't have been shocked if he found himself out of lineup, especially if Shabanov came back. But I think he's finding himself a little bit. He's going to the dirty areas. He scores the goal. That's to be a huge confidence booster. Now the question becomes, all right, well, if Siplikov's going to stay in the lineup and Holmstrom has to play on the third line because that's where he looks so much better, now what happens with Shabanov? Because I don't think, size-wise and the way Siplikov plays and the way Shabanov plays, I don't think Shabanov's a fourth-line player. And also, I wouldn't be shocked if Shabanov sits the first couple of games back because there's no opening. Not to say that is Shabanov a more talented player than McLean, 100%. However, I think McLean plays a better fourth-line game than Shabanov would.
Agreed. But I do wonder if as we said before with the enforcer, maybe he wants to get some offensive boost on that fourth line, and maybe by kind of mistake and by circumstances that you don't think will cause it, can they maybe find something between Siplikov and Shabanov on the fourth line? Can they make some plays together? Do you think that could be a fit? I mean, they're both Russian. It's easy to kind of just throw it out there. But what do you actually think from a hockey perspective?
Yeah. No. It's a great point by you because they have chemistry. We saw it in, preseason, where in Siplikov, that was in Philly, actually.
Yeah, actually was.
So they have chemistry. My concern would be how Waugh matches them up. Or at home, obviously, he's got second change, but again, Shabanov's really good defensively, which probably helps with this. The question is, what are they asking that fourth line to do? Because the question also becomes, well, you're not moving on from, what's Cizikas' role? his role has always been forecheck, forecheck, forecheck. But if you don't really want Shabanov only forecheck, like it depends how wide you use that line. If you use that line to be more offensive, yeah, it works. And you have a line where you actually can transition. But if he's going up against the best the other team has to offer, and he's hemmed in his own zone for 80% of his shifts, or is looking defensive 80% of his shift, that's probably not using Shabanov to his advantage. And also, I'll throw this out here. Duclair was great out of the gate. He's been a little quiet lately.
Yeah.
You may be putting Duclair back on that line and giving Shabanov a shot there. These are just quite. But yeah.
Okay, almost lost you again there. But yeah, I'm interested to see how these lines look too. Heineman, I really questioned up on that first line for a while and was kind of begging for a change. But my goodness, Waugh really found something that works there. Horvat before today, just been playing incredible hockey. Really, I love how Heineman even gave him credit in one of those quotes saying, "I'm just getting served great passes." So
it's everyone always thinks this, and I don't know why everyone thinks this, that your three best talented players have to play together. And that's not usually how it works. It's which three players fit the best together. Heineman's goals, none of them have been gorgeous, deking, unreal goals. They've been just pucks to open space, and he's ready to shoot. And that's it. So people be a line or whatever. That line, is Heineman an elite goal scorer? I don't know. He's only been in the league for a year and a half collectively, maybe 2 years collectively. I know he played a little bit before his rookie year, and then he got hit by a car last year. But if he just does this routinely and will bury the chances that he gets, he's a perfect fit with those guys. Perfect.
Yeah. No, I mean, I totally agree. The Lee, Pajot, and Holmstrom line, I feel like there was one shift in every period where they were just pouring it on. I don't know. That line kind of surprises me, but I think it's sometimes because Lee is kind of faster than I expect him to be. And man, Pajot is just so smart. My favorite play he made today, kind of a random one. Obviously, the shorthanded goal was a beauty, but in 3-on-3, obviously possession is so key. And to just see Cam York skating, not knowing where he's going, and Pajot taking candy from a baby, man. This guy is such a good hockey player, and it's a contract year for him, obviously, and he is brought it so far this year.
He is so reliable, and when his career is over, and I know you're a Josh Bailey guy, right? You're a Josh Bailey fan, but when his career is over, I think we look back at Pajot's time on the island as one of the most underrated players of this decade, because not only is you look at the Holmstroms. The way Holmstrom's developed, and if he could become that guy, and the young guys that have been on Pajot's wing, he plays a huge part in their development, and whatever they do going forward in their career, Pajot plays a part. But the Islanders don't get to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals without Pajot.
No way.
What he did last year, the Islanders were first place in the league in faceoffs. He continues to win the faceoffs. This guy's an unreal hockey player, and maybe he got stifled offensively because of Trotz's system, coming over as a second-line winger, a second-line center for Ottawa all those years. But he's been a fantastic Islander. He's rebounded from that wrist injury that he had a couple of years ago. He's fantastic at what he does. It's probably why he's going to be one of the number 1 or number 2 players on the trade market come the deadline. But he's been fantastic to start this year. He's very underrated. And you love to see it, and you love to see what he's done with Holmstrom so far.
Agreed. And, early in the season, when you see Shabanov starting on the third line, a lot of fans probably not loving that. But I thought it was great because Shabanov didn't look great in the first couple preseason games, which is to be expected. But, kind of the first game he plays, he's with Pajot and Holmstrom, and he scores his first goal. And
Waugh said that he put him with Pajot because he said to Pajot, "Hey, help this kid out." That never shows up on the stat sheet. So if Shabanov goes on to have a really good career, you got to credit Pajot, and again, Holmstrom, Shabanov, I'm obviously blanking on a couple of names, but Pajot is a pro's pro, and Pajot is trusted, obviously PK, and shutting down the opponent's best, but being that guy that allows the youngsters to just play their game because he's going to be relied upon to help out when they have those issues or turnovers on the ice and bail them out.
Completely agree. He's going to be a guy that is not really. You'll realize he's gone like
Yep.
pretty quickly,
And to
and
be honest, there's a reason why he's still here.
yeah, and you see it every night. Like it's you almost wish that it wasn't the last year of his deal, but it's who knows who
Now,
knows what the future is there.
well, I'll throw this out here. Everyone talks about Pajot being traded and things like that, and of course, obviously losing him for nothing. But if the Islanders let's say the Islanders decide to eventually call Richie up, move Barzal back to the wing, you have Richie as the second line center, and they don't believe Danny Nelson's ready, and whatever, don't be shocked if Pajot's back, guys. If he signs a cheap deal to be a third line C and allow Danny Nelson maybe a year in the A, I'm not saying it's going to be a 1-year deal because I think that'd be ridiculous for Pajot and his agent to sign. Don't be shocked if he is here. Now, obviously, you need other changes to happen. Maybe you trade a vet on the back end. Maybe Cizikas is gone. Maybe Pajot becomes your fourth line center and Cizikas is gone. But I wouldn't be shocked if Pajot was here to start next season.
Yeah, I personally would be surprised. But the thing is, if you have a player like Pajot on your hockey team and he's in your bottom six, you're trying to be competitive. You're trying to win games, and I have no problem with that. I think that the most important part of this season are games like today, games down the stretch that actually matter. Connor Bedard is 3 years into his career, and he hasn't played in meaningful games past December. And I think that really hurts development because as these teams get better
100%.
and good, there's going to be more learning for them. These guys are going to learn now. I don't like the loser kind of atmosphere of, prioritizing a lottery draft pick. I don't think that's a way to run an organization. I also am a New York Jets fan, so I'm quite traumatized by that kind of philosophy. It's all these first round picks, all these first overall picks. It's all about what you surround them with. And, a team that finished in 11th in the East or 12th in the East, but being alive for the postseason up until April pretty much last year. They're not supposed to get their hands on a guy like Schaefer and have all these prospects like Richie and Eklund and Aitchison, and the list goes on. So I really like how Darsh is building this group right now. We're not just going to throw these guys out there with limited support. There are good veteran players. I think the Horvats and the Barzals are really important for a guy like Richie. I think the Pelicks, the Pollocks, the Mayfield, I think these guys are really I think it's gonna have a positive effect on their play, and I think it's gonna have a positive effect on Schaefer's play. And that was kind of my theory going into this year. For the Islanders to be a good team this season and to make the playoffs and kind of defy the odds, they're going to need step-ups from guys like Pollock, from guys like Mayfield. And I thought that it was possible because when you get your hands on a guy like Schaefer, and, people could use the words country club and negative connotations, but the reality is, to me, this team is a very tight. And while that might be ripped on, you bring in a guy like Schaefer, these guys want to welcome him in. They want him to be the best player possible. And hey, they might want to be the guys talked about when this guy gets, a Hall of Fame jacket one day. I remember Schaefer bringing up, I can't thank Pollock, Pellick, Mayfield, all these guys enough for when I first entered the league. And I think it's already shown. I think I've seen improvement from those three players in particular so far. And yeah, that's really what I'm hoping for this year. There's going to be limitations. There's going to be bad nights, but yeah, I think I really like how they're building this thing right now.
You got to credit, no one wants to credit Lou, but getting Richie for Nelson is going to be huge for this franchise. And then you have to credit Darch because it's one thing to put a lot of emphasis on Bridgeport and Worcester and emphasis on draft and the players that they did draft, which obviously, Darch had a say in, but that's trusting the scouting department. But then it's about opportunity, right? You got Schaefer. Obviously, he was making this team. Shabana earned the opportunity to make this team, obviously, when they got him. But Warren's been your best player in Bridgeport. And maybe in the past, he does not see an NHL minute until March, April, if that. Right? Yep. They had Boquist. They didn't really need to bring Warren up. And I actually asked Wah, coming off their best defensive game of the year, why did you make that change? Why was Boquist out? He said, we're just trying things. But you're rewarding a prospect who got off to a really good start, who had a great camp. That's huge for the players that are in Bridgeport that finally, for the first time ever, say, you know what? If I play well, I can it's not just if I play well, I'm a thought for them in a year or two. If I play well, I might get a chance. Again, Bogus, you could say Bogus and D'Angelo haven't played well, and I would agree with you to a large part of that. But when you win a game like that and you've won 4 straight, like, you don't really want to change your lineup. So the fact that they gave Warren a chance is great for Warren. It's great for the organization. But to every prospect that watched Warren get called up, you know how huge that is for them to see that, hey, 5 games into a year, Warren played really well. George would be a better player than Warren in general, like just overall game. But the GM rewarded him, getting him into the lineup right away. That is huge for the mindset of a rookie in a process, especially when they're coming from a decade, or for them a couple of years, of going and playing in Bridgeport, where all that happened was their confidence got destroyed. And that's huge. I think that's the most important thing from Warren's debut. Yes, he played, but what it meant for how the franchise is evaluating their prospect pool and understanding the importance of getting these guys into a lineup if they deserve it.
Yeah, one of my favorite things from, Darsh kind of did like a mini media tour when he first got the job. And, I was listening pretty closely. And one of my favorite parts I realized about the Darsh hire and Darsh's background is that this guy played in how many minor league games and had how long of an NHL career. Like, he understands what it's like to be a Terry in Bridgeport, to be a Gleb, or to be a Warren. Like, you got to earn it, and the odds are against you, and you got to find your way to come up. And he said, if these guys are playing well, I will reward them. And that's just something that I appreciate, because it was honest. And, a lot of these guys say things that they don't really mean, but that's been my favorite part of Darsh so far, is like, he's not going to make decisions because they're popular. He's going to make decisions because guys have earned it.
Not only that, and he's just going to make decisions he feels are right. Look at Piero Greco. He fires him just handful of games into the year. Could he have been fired at the end of the year? Sure. Could have he held on to him? Sure. If there's a problem, or if there's something Darch wants to do, he's going to do it. And he's going to, actions speak louder than words. And like you said, he could have said, I'm going to, players in Bridgeport are going to earn it, and then not have backed it up. And he backs it up right away. So I'll leave you with that. That Darch, out of the gate, has everything he said. I'm going to focus on Bridgeport. He's focused on Bridgeport. I'm going to allow prospects to thrive. Hyman, I believe, is a top-line player. He said that right from the get-go, that he thought that he could play as a perfect fit with Horvat and Druin, and he did that, and he stuck with it. So kudos to the way Darch handled everything out of the gate, because where the Islanders make the playoffs or not this year, it is about the future with him. Obviously, he wants to make the playoffs now, but everything he's done so far has been slam dunks moving, and we'll see what happens the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I agree with you, by the way, on Lamoriello, because I think that Darsh and Lou, it's kind of funny because, like, you don't normally see a situation like this. Like, normally you come in to a new team and this team is a complete, utter mess. And you could argue that, wasn't in the greatest position, but, Lou trades Brock Nelson, but he doesn't trade Kyle Palmieri. And you knew that there was going to be a need for winger depth with, being a little thinner at sea. So he keeps Palmieri, re-signs him to a pretty good contract. I mean, I'm a fan of Palmieri. I think he's a really good player. You have him, and Darsh goes out. He adds Drouin. When he trades Noah Dobson, he even brings in another winger with Heineman. And, Duclair coming back. He's healthy. You re-sign Siplikov, all the RFAs, Holmstrom. You don't trade Lee yet, or if you're going to. We'll see about that. We'll see how that plays out. But the point is, these two did a really nice job with replacing what could have been a major deficit with Brock Nelson. Like, they could have just been like, Darsh could have been like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to give Siplikov and Holmstrom the opening night spots in the top 6. Shabanov too. How could I forget him? And kind of take that risk to see if these guys are ready to be in these roles permanently. He instead decided, let's go get a proven guy like Drouin, and that's just, and a proven guy like Palmieri. Like, I thought that those were some really under the radar smart decisions by both of them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's a difference, and this is probably my last point here, is there's a difference between bodies and players. And this is not a knock on the Fashings, on the other depth forwards the Islanders have had throughout the years in their bottom 6. There's a different system. But in today's NHL, with the way that Darch and Wild want to play, bodies aren't going to cut it. You need players with the speed and skill and talent, and the Islanders, for the first time in a while, have that. And if they could defend the rush consistently, like we saw today, like we saw against Detroit, They're going to win. They're going to get points, and they're going to be a playoff team. The question is, can they do it? I think they figured out how to defend the rush, after it took a little bit in a new system. But yeah, this is the most talented folks have had, and if Pelican Pulak can bounce back, if Mayfield could be a stabilizer with Schaefer, and if Warren takes advantage of his minutes, and they're going to need Sorokin to do his job. I know it's a lot of things that have to happen, but in today's NHL, to make the playoffs, you need a lot of those things to go right. You got to stay healthy. So we'll see. Again, they don't want to lose today's game. They get a point. They go and place a really, a struggling. This is a bad Boston team, and can they do that before going up to play against a really tough Carolina and Washington team? We'll see. But Jack, it's been a pleasure joining you. This is an awesome post-game show. You keep up the great work, man. It's been great.
Absolutely. You guys can find Stefen on Twitter, obviously. Check out his Almonters blog, The Hockey News. He does some great work. Stefen, thank you again for coming on with me.
No problem, man. Take care.
You too. Alrighty, guys. 4-3 loss in Philly. Islanders next take the ice against Boston on Tuesday. There will not be a post-game show that night. We'll be doing the Isles House podcast, and then following that, the Islanders play in Carolina and in Washington. Not sure if I have that flip-flopped, but we'll definitely get a show in for one of those. Thank you guys for listening, and see you next time.